Greetings and welcome back to room 303 and our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the 1,775 poems of the Johnson edition of Emily Dickinson's classics. We're looking now at poem number 10, My Wheel is in the Dark. And right away we're going to see Emily as teacher, Emily as curious wanderer. We've seen this already in the first 9 poems to some degree, and now we're going to see it amplified here. Now our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, our chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've already been exposed to our intro lecture, and I'm hopeful that you are with us up through and including poem number 9 through Lane It Lay. Now again, we commented for background information that of our 5 P's or perspectives on Emily, one of those is Emily as pedagogue or as teacher, as curious wanderer. And as we commented in our talks with Walt, all teachers know that there's really 3 D's, as we say them in teaching, that all teachers understand they are hopeful that they will accomplish. Teacher as distributor of knowledge, and we're going to see a lot of that. We're going to see, for example, Emily in this poem use a word of technical word that, much like Walt Whitman, you have to know this word or you're not going to know what's going on at all, and that was true even for Emily's day. Along with distributing knowledge, teachers, of course, are developers of character, of values, of perspectives, and to that degree, Emily is for sure always going to be hoping that she can develop not only her own character, but ours as well. But most importantly, and we learn this, of course, from our analysis of Walt Whitman's Song of Myself, especially passage 46-47, teachers are destroyers. That is to say, great teachers are always challenging the student to destroy the teacher. In other words, to move beyond, to live beyond. But there is a certain kind of intimacy between the teacher and the student that, of course, in the Western tradition begins with Socrates and Plato, or Socrates and any number of other interlocutors. We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net. But there's that recognition that we're all kind of in this together, and we're going to see that in this poem as well. In fact, we're going to get some grammar play as well as we finish this poem. Let's enjoy. Poem 10. My wheel is in the dark, I cannot see a spoke, yet know its dripping feet go round and round. My foot is on the tide, an unfrequented road, yet have all roads a clearing at the end. Some have resigned the loam, some in the busy tomb find quaint employ, some with new stately feet pass royal through the gate, flinging the problem back at you and I. Notice you and I exclamation point. We'll obviously get to the grammatical incongruity at the conclusion of the poem. We're going to start though with the image of the paddle wheel, and of course in Emily's day these were very, very popular, especially up and down the Mississippi River, the way in which that wheel will turn and turn. But notice we begin with this notion of in the dark, back to our big 5, and of course the epistemological, ontological fallibilism, the uncertainty. We're playing in the dark, and this is going to be one of Emily's great motifs all the way through. In the dark, learning to be comfortable in the dark, but also always looking for some light in the dark. Notice, she can't see a spoke, yet know its dripping feet. Notice this idea of beyond sight, there is perspicacity, insight. I know something. Again, notice the epistemological certainty. This takes us obviously back to our study of Plato's Republic, and especially Book 7 in the Cave Allegory. But what is it that she says about this spoke? Well, it goes round and round. Think about the power of this idea of cycles. Think about the wheel of karma in the Buddhist tradition or the Hindu tradition, this idea that life just keeps going on and on and on. Of course, Yeats will play the same game when he picks up his classic Second Coming, turning and turning in the widening gyre. The idea that the center cannot hold and all of that. We've given a full lecture at learnstrong.net if you're interested. Then notice the second 4-line offering. My foot, and again it always seems to come back to the physical body with Emily. My foot is on the tide, notice capitalized with an exclamation point. My foot is on the tide. In other words, you get this sense, much like in our study of Plato's Phaedra, that there is this sense of, you know, am I about to step? Am I about to go? Am I going to, am I going to maybe take the next step in my journey, if you will, right? And the notion that there's always something to be gained. But notice it's again back to this ocean motif, or back to the water motif, the tide. An unfrequented road. In other words, this may be death, and therefore it's never been done before. And to that degree, here we are, right, with Socrates about to drink his hemlock and to go bye-bye on his journey. And of course he's excited because he says, I don't know what's going to happen next year. It's an unfrequented road, notice. Yet have all roads a clearing at the end. This is a bit of hope, maybe a bit of optimism, sounding again, very, very much like Socrates as he's getting ready to go on his journey in that, in that remarkable dialogue of the soul of Plato's. Then the third stanza. Some have resigned the loan. Now, this is part of the or special language here, part of the or between the rowlock and the hand. You'd have to know this to be able to appreciate fully what's going on. Some have resigned the loom. Some in the busy tune find quaint employ. I love her use of the word quaint here. Right? Notice it's the busy tune. In other words, people are always dying. Some with new stately feet. Notice we're back to my foot is on the tide. Only now here, of course, those who have made the journey and now have new feet pass royal through the gate. Now we're going to hear about gates several times, okay? And this pass through the gate immediately makes us think about T.S. Eliot's four quartets, and especially Burnt Norton, my words echo thus in your mind, but to what purpose disturbing the dust on a bowl of rose leaves, I do not know. Other echoes inhabit the garden, shall we follow? Quick, said the bird, find them, round the corner, through the gate, into our new world. Shall we, this whole notion of going through the gate at Burnt Norton. We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net for that one. And notice, pass royally through the gate, and then this use of the word flinging, only time in the entire corpus of Emily's poems does she use this verb, flinging the problem back at you and me. Now, I love this use of the word flinging. It's as if the water is being flung from the wheel, so that's brilliant. But the use of the word flinging has almost like an offhanded kind of, hey, what about this for a question? How about this? And, again, this takes us all the way back to the Platonic corpus, where we will have especially those final days of Socrates, as we will say, right? Where you'll have the opening sequence culminating, of course, with Apology and Crito, and then ultimately, that beautiful dialogue that speaks of the soul. How wonderful that is. Flinging the problem back at you and me. Now, of course, this notion of grammar and the violation of grammar rules, this bugs some readers. But I love it. And I love it for the same reason that I love when we read and watched Whitman play around with games like this as well. Of course, it should be you and me and not you and I because of the object of the preposition add, but I love this kind of thing. And when we get to our 2B here in a second, we'll have more to say about it. What are we going to do with this poem, though, at 2A? Well, I think this is all about the journey, isn't it? The journey of life. Sometimes it is plagued with uncertainty. And, of course, the question is going to be flung back at us, right? Those, another possible notion or message, those already gone can't really help us to know what's at the end of that journey, that clearing at the end of the journey. At 2B, well, I love that Emily loves to play with language, and grammar especially. By the way, she will play the same game, Wisher, the great biographer, points out, in poem 1298, in the lines, had nature an Iscariot, that mushroom, it is him as opposed to he. And as well in poem 577, think of it, lover, I and thee permitted face to face to be. Of course, strictly speaking, Wisher points out that thee has no standing as a nominative case, but in colloquial practice, it's long been sanctioned quite apart from its conventional use by the Quakers. And I think this is part of Emily playing with these games. She'll play around with this language and with syntax, and we're going to see this elsewhere as well. Inventing new words we've already seen and the like. I like as well her use of special language like alone in this poem. It reminds us of Walt Whitman, and I'm going to argue this is one of those moments that we can point to say, Emily is an American poet. You know, sometimes when I'm speaking to international audiences, they will ask about Emily or about Walt. What makes them so American? And I will immediately go to Song of Myself, passage 6, for example, to talk about Whitman as an American poet. And here I can go to a place like this, where the language is specifically very technical and therefore very American. Well, at 3A, I've already mentioned our Plato, and I mean, that's just, that goes without saying. But I want to take us to Song of Myself 48, passage that we love so much. And there is no object so soft, but it creates a hub for the wheeled universe. This idea that everything is understood in circles will obviously take us to Emerson's classic circles. And I think that is, in fact, for Emily, where she got some of her ideas about this notion of the cyclical nature of life. Speaking of that, to take us to finally 3B, how about this for a question to just finish? Again, guys, I'm trying to help you own, if I can use that term, each one of these poems for yourself. How about this one? Have you had the flinging of the problem back on you and I? Notice the intimacy of the you and I. It's as if Emily does what Whitman loves to do, reaching out from the poem and joining both of us, you and I, along with Emily, to have, how shall we say it best, a bit of a chat. Why not a bit of a chat? Thank you.